Hey everybody, Ben for the Better Podcast, and welcome to Blood Bowl 2025 Team Guides. We're going through every team available in Blood Bowl Season 3. We're looking at the players, we're looking at the roster, we're looking at the skills, we're looking at the changes. Basically, bringing you up to speed on this team in this edition. And now we're going to jump into one of my favourite stunty teams, especially in League. We're going to be looking at Ogres. Now, there are no two-headed ogres here, which is a massive shame, but they're still pretty fun. Now, I absolutely love the ogre roster. It's a great fun team, and the kit itself is wicked. It is the best way to get a whole bunch of house elves on the pitch, and then you've got some big guys too. So the ogre team, rerolls are pricey. Your big guys are pricey, but your little guys are borderline free. So 70k rerolls, they're tier 4 in this edition, which is the new tier for stunties. They can take an apothecary, which can be useful to mean you don't have to keep buying ogres. And they've got a bunch of special rules. So they can be either Badlands Brawl or World's Edge Super League, and that will affect which star players, which inducements you can take. Now, when we've got a stunty team, we kind of have to talk about the fact that you're going to end up with some cash in leagues, and you need to start thinking about potentially star players or inducement. Now, we're going to touch on one inducement which works really well with ogres today, which is riotous rookies. We're not going to go into the different star players and stuff like that. Not just yet anyway, but ogres are one of those teams where if you're playing in a tournament or you're playing a league, you want to keep half an eye on which star players you're going to be able to afford and which are kind of going to help your team do stuff. And that's where the Badlands Brawl or World's Edge Super League come in. But when we look at starting rosters for ogres, we'll go through kind of like your top picks for the stars so that you really know, okay, cool, I'm running ogres, I probably want a model for this star player, or a model for this star player for different circumstances. Now, this team's got Brawling Brutes, which means they get 3 SPP for a casualty and 2 SPP for a touchdown, kind of flip-flopping that, which is really beneficial here, because when it comes to ogres, because your little guys have got Edge 3+, and because they're titchy, stunty, and have dodge, they're going to be scoring quite a few touchdowns, and therefore robbing your ogres of those sweet SPPs. So the ogres are going to be punching stuff, and that's basically going to mean that you kind of flip-flop that round, which means it speeds up the ogres developing. And when you look at how many SPPs certain skills are these days, it actually really helps ogres in league, I think. They didn't need a lot of help. They're a stunty team. They're supposed to be challenging, but this is going to help you get to a point where your ogres feel really good a bit quicker, which I think is really beneficial. And the last bit here to talk about is low-cost linemen, which very much goes into inducements. So on this roster, the Gnoblars, your linemen, these little goblin guys, you have to pay gold to hire them, but when you're playing a league match, they don't count as being there. So your team value for your game is going to be less. So if you bought 10 Gnoblars, that's going to cost you 150,000 gold, but that's not going to count during the game, so you're going to get petty cash potentially of a similar amount depending on where your opponent's team is. And that's why I mean this team is often going to have an extra 100 to 200k where you're going to be able to afford a star player, where normally you may afford a keg or something. So one to be very aware of when playing with ogres. Riotous Rookies is probably the one I'm going to lean on here. It's 150k. I feel like it was 100 in the last edition. But what this does is it gives you 2d3 plus 1 extra Gnoblars. They've all got Loner, and they all go away at the end of the game. But it means you can start with 1 billion little dudes, because, spoiler alert, your little dudes are going to die, and your ogres, having a throw teammate and a kick teammate skill, are going to help them die too. Alright, so the roster itself hasn't changed in this edition. You can still take 0 to 16 Gnoblar linemen, you can take 0 to 1 runt punter, and 0 to 5 ogre blockers. Those are basically the same positional. The runt punter's got a slightly better passing stat, and instead of throw teammate, they've got kick teammate, which functionally works very similarly. But what it does do is it gives you one ogre that's a little bit better at doing the throwing, or i.e. kicking in this place, and has different skill access in that it can take passing, which in a lot of situations is going to kind of lead you towards taking leader, which is going to fudge an extra reroll into your roster. But otherwise, looking at this, and I do love an ogre team, they've not changed in much regard. of how you actually build the team out. They're still just carnage, and I think I love it. So let's get to it. The Gnoblars here, even though the Ogre team is called the Ogre team, and the Ogres tend to be the stars, the Gnoblars, they are fantastic. They are snotlings for all intents and purposes. They are movement 5, strength 1, edge 3+, passing 4+, armor 6+. They are 15,000 gold pieces each. They start with dodge, right stuff, sidestep, stunty, and titchy, which is a fantastic little combination of very annoying skills. Basically, if you are playing against Gnoblars, most of the time you're going to be throwing 3 block dice, but they've got dodge, so you may not get them down. And on a push or a dodge result, they're going to be able to sidestep and put themselves where they want to go. This is going to come about most often in the phrase, where would you like to die? Because when you not block a Gnoblar, because of that sidestep, the Ogre player is going to get to choose where that player goes down, or in some cases stays standing. And that can be incredibly frustrating. Gnoblars are brilliant at frenzy baiting. If somebody has got frenzy, so Khorne team, Ogres versus Khorne are a wicked combination. Because that Gnoblar lineman, if it doesn't go down, it just leads people on a very merry little chase, which actually gives you quite a lot of ground control from a point of view of running the Ogres. Now, these guys also, they're movement 5, which is a bit slow. Couple of rushes, movement 7, not bad. But stunty, titchy dodge means that these guys are dodging on a 2+ into almost every square. And they've got the dodge reroll as well. So while the Gnoblars look diminutive and pathetic, because from a stats point of view they are, think of them as a movement 7 infinite 2+ dodging piece. That obviously that's egregiously overstating it, but there's some times where that's exactly what your Gnoblar is going to do. And they've got right stuff, which means you can throw them and you can kick them, and if they don't die, they can perform absolute miracles. Now, for the sake of completeness, we're going to talk through a couple of skills and things you may want to develop them into, but Gnoblars are armor 6+ and strength 1. They're not often going to last that long. So saving out to stat up a Gnoblar at 14 SPP, right, achievement unlocked. Saving up to give them a 10 SPP general skill. All right, a Gnoblar with wrestle, a Gnoblar with block. That's a lot of fun. It's a pipe dream, but it's a lot of fun. What they do though, is they've got agility, which means you can get them to jump up to help be a paratrooper, i.e. you throw them over the backside, and even if they land and they aren't stunned, they can jump up, and it's actually quite cool. You've got sidestep already, you've got dodge already. They can take sprint or sure feet to make them a little bit faster. Devious skills is probably the angle you want to take with your Gnoblars though, because you've got a really good potential here of getting something. Dirty player to add +1 to your fouling, or lone fowler to re-roll that roll, or there's some good stuff you can take in the devious skill tree that will just help Gnoblars mop up along afterwards. However, it's not like, don't get too attached to them, because not only is your opponent going to try blocking them, because at strength 1, even though they've got dodge and sidestep, they're only armor 6+. So Gnoblars are just like, they're tiny roadblocks, but they're SPP treats for your opponent. So your opponent is just going to YOLO block them all the time because they can, and then there's going to be quite frequently a moment where you look at them and go, I'm going to throw this guy at my opponent's cage because I want the cage broken significantly more than I care about my Gnoblar being broken, and that's the joy of stunties. Okay, so let's jump into the big hitter here. So you get 1 runt punter. I think it's still called a runt punter, actually. It is still called a runt punter. So, do you know what? Yeah, Gnoblars are still called Gnoblars. They're not called runts. All right. Well, they're runts. And that's who this guy is punting. So we've got an Ogre stat line here. Movement 5, strength 5, edge 4+, passing 4+, a little bit over here, and armor 10+, 145k, the Ogre runt punter. Okay, just fix that. They're a little bit more expensive because they got the little bit more passing ability, being a 4+ instead of a 5+. Right, where's my Ogre team? Yes, this is correct. Okay, so Bonehead is going to be... Bonehead is going to be popping up quite frequently. Now, that just means this player has to activate on a 2+. So only 1 in 6 turns is this player not going to do something. You're playing a 16-turn game, so you can kind of say, all right, 2.5 turns out of the game, this Ogre is going to skip a turn, become distracted, and lose his tackle zone as well. Now, when you're playing with a normal big guy on a normal team, that's a bit of a nuisance. When you're playing with multiple, and in some cases up to 6 Ogres on this roster, you're going to have those turns where you get the Bonehead cascade of 3 or 4 of your guys boneheading all in one turn, and then your team is just missing. So Bonehead is a thing that you have to work around, but the only thing you can do is just hope not to roll ones. Now there's some stuff you can do to mitigate that, team rerolls, the pro skill, but Bonehead is going to get you. However, this player is strength 5, it's got edge 4+, it's got movement 5+, yes, Bonehead, but that just means it's activating on a 2+, it's got mighty blow as well. So these guys are able to punch stuff. The punter and the standard ogres are going to be 2 die blocking most of the time, and they're going to be 2 die blocking with mighty blow, and there's one skill there that's missing, loner. So you get full access to your rerolls for this team. So yeah, they've got Bonehead, but this is going to be a 2, and with some supports, 3 die block most of the time. If you've got 4, 5, 6 ogres, that is a huge amount of hits that you can put out against your opponent, and you've got mighty blow, so those hits are going to count. And that's where you can bring in some Gnoblars, take a little bit of a foul, maybe you get one with Dirty Player, and it just becomes a bit of a removal fest. Now, the runt punter has kick teammate, and this is very important because it is basically the same as throw teammate with a couple of differences. So when this player is activated, they can declare a kick teammate special action. Only one player can declare this special action each turn. You can only get one kick teammate on the roster. I think Grak has got it as well. Kick teammate special action works exactly the same as a throw teammate action with the following exceptions. Performing a kick teammate action does not count as a throw teammate action, so you can do both in a turn, which is wicked, which means you get 2 shots at kicking a Gnoblar at a cage or whatever you want to do with them, which is fantastic. However, if a kick teammate special action results in a fumbled throw, immediately make an injury roll for the teammate being kicked, treating any result of stunned as knocked out. If the kick player is holding the ball, it will bounce from the square they are in. Any skills or traits that come into play when a player performs a throw teammate action will also apply to a kick teammate special action. This player will also gain SPPs in the same manner as a throw teammate action. So this is a better version of a throw teammate because he's got passing 4+, which basically is the equivalent of a standard big guy with strong arm, and it doesn't count as your throw teammate. And the throw teammate doesn't count as your pass. So you've got all the options that you could possibly want now in this team to go, right, I'm going to kick him to there, then he's going to throw him to there, and then he's going to throw the ball to him, and then he's going to hand off to there. It's the dream. It's wildly unlikely, but man, when it plays out, it's going to be absolutely beautiful. Now, the other special thing about the runt punter is the skill access. All ogres get strength on a primary, agility, devious, and general skills on a secondary. So I guess we'll start there. In the secondary skills are 10 SPP, so if you want your blocking ogres, you have to get to 10 SPP. Now they're brawling brutes, that's 1 casualty is 3, 2 casualty is 6, MVP. They could easily do this in one game if you roll quite nicely. That's straight to 10 SP, go past go, collect the block skill, strength 5, mighty blow, block, no loner, and then you are absolutely cooking. Fantastic. But the runt punter here gets strength on a primary, and passing. Now, passing is lovely because what we just discussed there is that those throw teammate skills also work. And when you've got strength and passing, you've got access to some stuff. So you've got leader, like we talked about earlier. So the runt punter can become another reroll for your team simply by getting to 6 SPP and choosing it, or 3 SPP and taking a random. But strength is, there's some really fun ones here for ogres. So break tackle works lovely with ogres, and this is the true story for the runt punter or for the standard ogre. It's going to add +3 to a dodge roll in your turn with that ogre. You're edge 4+, which is already pretty good for a big guy. So you are now edge 4, 3, 2, 1+ for your dodge. That's a 1+ dodge with no loner to land a strength 5 mighty blow hit somewhere. That's a very, very, very potent thing. That's a 2+ into 1 tackle zone, a 3+ into 2 tackle zones, or a 4+ into 3 tackle zones. So with a bit of break tackle and a little bit of luck, and bearing in mind these guys don't have loner, that's what, 75% chance of your ogre just wandering into 3 tackle zones. It can be very, very lovely, which is incredibly potent. Now, they've also got the bullseye skill they can take, and they can take strong arm as well. So if you are planning on being the kick teammate machine here, or throw teammate for the rest of your ogres, Strong arm's going to add +1, so the runt punter would essentially become passing 3+ in that circumstance, which is very, very, very effective. Or you've got bullseye, which means if you make a superb throw, and when throwing teammate, the player does not scatter. And that's going to be sneaky fun for throwing a Gnoblar at a cage. And that is an incredibly valid tactic. It's always been a really valid tactic, but this one, it just kind of gets a little bit more valid. So when you make a throw teammate, you can throw up to 6 squares basically, and that's going to give you a -1. Up to 3 squares is going to give you a -0, and then you -1 for each player marking you, right? Same as that. The result will either be a superb throw, a subpar throw, or a fumbled throw. So a result of 1 or a natural 1, he fumbles him, he bounces from the ogre's square, and it's bad times, right? And the master attempts to land. A subpar throw, if the passing ability test is failed, then the throw is a subpar throw, and the thrown player will scatter 3 times from the target square before landing, and they will find it harder to do so. That's as normal, right? But if the passing ability test is successful, or the roll is a natural 6, then the throw is a superb throw. So this player here, making a quick pass, is succeeding, making a superb throw on a 4+. And if that little player lands, you're going to get SPP for doing it. But if you take bullseye, then on a 4+ or a 5+ if you're throwing him 6 squares, dude just hits the square you're targeting, which means you've got a real good opportunity with the bullseye skill to actually get the ball where you want to be. Bear in mind, fumbled land is -1, a subpar is -1. So you really are fishing to make the accurate roll. Now, without bullseye, it's still going to scatter 3 times before you make the landing, but there's not going to be a modifier to it. And I'm pretty sure if you do that, you get a cheeky bit of SPP, which is, in fact, just a fantastic little addition to this edition. And yeah, let's just read that. Throw teammate. Superb throw, and they land. You get an SPP. So an even faster way for teams to develop. The point being here, these ogres are wicked. You can take muscle on any of them, and you can take throw stuff basically on any of them. The punter, have in mind that a leader might be quite good for you, because your rerolls are going to be 140k once you start brewing up in League. But you've got a little bit more choice now. You can take some randoms at 3 SPP, roll twice and pick. But now you're brawling brutes. Now you're landing superb throws and getting SPP. Your ogres are going to get more chance and more choice to develop the way you want them to. Okay, so everything we just said about the runt punter applies to the ogre blocker. The only difference is that they're passing 5+, and you can take up to 5 of them. Now, ogres, the more ogres you've got, the more Bonehead is going to do you in. So there's a couple of things, AFGP, ADGP. There's a couple of things you can kind of take around that. They only get primary skills of a strength. Now, when it comes to the ogre blockers, you've got some interesting choices straight away. You can take a little bit of guard and just help your Gnoblars be stronger at hitting. You can take a bit of brawler and just help your ogres be better at hitting. You can take grab to position. You can take break tackle to reposition your ogres. There's a lot of stuff you can do just fishing for strength skills. Like, there's a lot of really good stuff in there. Now, when it comes to ogres, you can save up to 10 SPP, and yeah, you can give them dodge or whatever, but you can also really brew them up and go the angle of, I want block, I want consistency, or you can take pro. So the way being distracted works is, let's say you fail a bonehead, you lose your tackle zones, and you become distracted. Next turn, your ogre is still distracted. Then you say, time to activate the ogre. The ogre stops being distracted until he fails another bonehead. So you can still pro a failed bonehead roll. So pro ogres, really good way to be. Block ogres, terrifyingly good way to be. The only other thing I can kind of think of here that you may want to consider, although I don't like it for this team because you don't get bribery and corruption, you can take pile driver. So your ogre can block a dude, mighty blow, and if that fails, you can then take a foul on him. You can do that. I thought it's worth mentioning, but it's a long way to spend some SPPs that you could better spend blocking. And you've got like 99 Gnoblars to run around and do the fouling for you, but it's an interesting one. Ultimately, these ogres, they don't need a lot. You can take Juggernaut, break tackle, brawler, guard, strong arm to throw better. There's a lot of stuff you can play with in the strength skills, and actually at 3 SPP, it may not be the worst thing in the world for one of your ogres to take a random strength, because you get to roll twice and pick. So if we actually just blitz through the list of strength skills, armbar, don't really want that. Brawler, serviceable. Break tackle, great. Bullseye, interesting. Grab, can be good. Guard, good. Juggernaut, good. Mighty blow, already got it, so that's a reroll. Multiple block can be quite interesting. You do have mighty blow and you've got no loner, so actually taking the opportunity to take a couple of 2-die blocks from one ogre in the right circumstance, I can see that being cool. Stand firm will be useful, but not one you'd choose. Strong arm, going to help you throw stuff. And thick skull, that's another reroll. So you've already got 2 of 12 that's going to get you a reroll. So if you want to fish a Juggernaut, Guard, multiple block, break tackle, brawler, you're going to be able to do that quite easily at 3 SPP. So it's definitely worth thinking about. Obviously, the better thing to do is wait till 10 SPP and take block. But sometimes in a league, that's not what you want to do. You want to get some skills early up. You could flub it and get a bad skill, but you know, it's worth considering taking. Okay, so ogres are a wicked team, and we will go over the roster in depth along with some stars and inducements that you want to consider when we do our starting roster video. If you want to see that sooner rather than later, let me know in the comments, because we'll push it up the list. But if you go to Games Workshop or your local gaming shop and you pick up a box of ogres, you're going to get 4 ogres in that box and 12 Gnoblars. You're going to get a ton of players. Now, the Gnoblars are low-cost linemen, so if you're playing a league game or just a pickup game at $1 million, you're going to get some inducement gold, basically. So the box I've presented here, I think, gives you a little bit of a feel of how running ogres works in a league environment without you having to invest in picking up some star players or invest in looking at the, I don't know, 60-something star players that are out there and available to you. You will need to do that if you want to run ogres properly. But to begin with, what you want to do when you're running ogres is run the ogre team so that you can get used to those players. So 7 Gnoblar linemen, 1 runt punter, 3 ogre blockers, 4 rerolls. Have I given you enough runt punt? Have I given you enough runts here? Have I missed one? 7. No, yeah, it's only 11 players. So 11 players and 4 rerolls. And then you've got riotous rookies. So the overall goal here is that your team comes to X amount. You get a rebate when it comes to Gnoblars. Your team value for the match is only going to be 845k. So we're going to assume you get around about 150k, and then you can take that riotous rookies to get 2d3 plus 1 more Gnoblars. And that's where this box kind of fills in. You want to keep your core roster a little bit low and potentially use that extra cash to induce the riotous rookies to give you the numbers. I think it's a really good place to start, because knowing what riotous rookie does, because you can get over 16 players, is a good way to think about it. The other way is that you actually just employ all of those Gnoblars right at the beginning. Then you may be able to afford riotous rookies still. The downside is that when you pick up a box, you will not have enough Gnoblars. Now, the best way to do this is to get an ogre team, and then because you need 6 ogres, you're probably going to end up picking up a second box for 2 more ogres. Then you've got more than enough Gnoblars, or you get a snotling team as well, and you use your snotlings for riotous rookies on your ogre team. It works perfectly, and it's a cool way to just kind of make the most out of your models. But to play ogres for the very first time, to get them to the pitch with your 1 box, you get a punter, so you can see what he can do. You get 3 blockers, you see what they do. You've got 4 ogres, so 4 rerolls is going to help them perform. There's no loner, so when you fail those boneheads, you get a chance. When you fail the pickup with an ogre, you get a chance to reroll it. And with riotous rookies, you're going to have 7 Gnoblars on your roster. You've got 5 models left over. You're probably going to 2d3 plus 1. It's going to end up around about 5. You're probably going to have enough of those models so that you can just kind of play which one of these Gnoblars has got loner. I'll kick him first, because quite frankly, that's how that's going to go. All right, so I love ogres. They are not... It's weird, because the actual roster is quite simple, right? But there's a lot going on with each of the players. You've got throw teammate, you've got kick teammate, you've got nega traits, you've got sidestep, dodge, stunty, all the shenanigans. They're not as simple as you'd want them to be. But for me, the most important thing there is that get them to the pitch, see what the ogres do, see the highs, see the lows, and then bear in mind that if you're running them in the league, or if you're taking them to a tournament, you are going to have to do some studying on inducements or star players. Presenting this one with riotous rookies means that your inducement is just more players. So you get more focus on the Ogre team on the pitch. After that, you might be able to go, okay, actually there's a star player here that's 80k, that could be really fun to run. And it kind of becomes a little bit like a Thunderbirds 2 thing, where it's like, which one of these things do I want to add to my roster? Which in itself can be really fun. Now, Ogres are looking to be basically the same tournament-wise, but league-wise, I think they got a bit buffed. Having the secondary SPP come down, having them have Brawling Brutes, meaning they get more SPP, and having them gain SPP for when you successfully land a superb throw, means your Ogres are going to brew up faster. No loner means that actually you can afford to save and invest in them and end up with some expensive but pretty potent Ogres with block, with break tackle, and just have them be a real dominant force. It's going to take a little while, but actually it's achievable now, so I think Ogres in League, they got a bit of a boost. But they're still a stunty team, and sometimes your opponent is just going to lick his chops going, ooh, look at all this SPP. And I guess I need to watch out for those teams that have gained a couple of free tackles in their blitzers, because those guys are going to eat SPP against those Gnoblars. But hey, that's why you make sure to bring a spare couple. Anyway, let me know what you think of Ogres in the comments below, and we'll be back soon with more level content. Happy kicking, teammates.